Welcome to The Blue Dot, Northern Kentucky's premier political podcast, brought to you by the Kenton County Democratic Executive Committee. Welcome back to The Blue Dot podcast, where we spotlight the people and ideas shaping communities across Kentucky and beyond. The story of Kentucky is a working class one, built in factories, forged in coal mines, and strengthened through union solidarity. Organized labor continues to champion workers' rights, and we're here to help amplify those voices. Thanks so much for joining. I'm Natalie MacDonald.
And I'm Brian Koehl. Today, we're joined by a leader who's been at the forefront of labor advocacy in the Bluegrass State, Dustin Reinstedler, who serves as the president of Kentucky's AFL-CIO, representing thousands of working men and women across a wide range of industries.
And that's right, Brian, with a focus on strengthening unions, expanding worker protections, and advocating for fair wages and safe workplaces, Dustin has become a key voice for labor in Kentucky. His work connects directly to the daily lives of workers fighting for dignity, opportunity, and a stronger middle class. Dustin, thanks so much for being here. Welcome to the Blue Dot Podcast.
Thank you all for having me. What a nice introduction. Thanks.
Thanks, Dustin. Thanks for joining us. Well, let's start with your personal journey, which is a really great story. You began your union career in 2005 as an apprentice with Bricklayers and Allied Craft Workers Local 4, Indiana, Kentucky. And you quickly rose to the ranks until 2023 when you were elected president of the Kentucky State AFL-CIO by more than 100,000 union members statewide. Just in general, what led you into the labor movement and ultimately to your role as president of the Kentucky AFL-CIO?
Well, the labor movement definitely has a way of finding you. I joined the Bricklayers Union, not really knowing a lot about the broader scope of the labor movement, just knowing that I wanted to build something that was going to last, which is kind of why I got into masonry, brick, block, and stone construction. I love the artistic part of it, and frankly, I was a young man that wanted to make some money and have some benefits, It did not take me long, though, because back then, as an apprentice, you had to attend at least, if I remember, 6 union meetings per year. So I did at least attend some union meetings. I started paying attention to the stuff that was going on, the stuff that my union representative was talking about in those meetings. And then I kind of started aligning myself with some of the older people on the job sites that were like-minded with me, that paid attention to world issues, to politics, to policy. I think by the time I was a second-year apprentice, I was elected by my local chapter to be the recording secretary, which is not a very glorious position. It doesn't pay anything. You're just taking notes at the meetings. But it was my way of being involved and being able to contribute something. And then I just started showing up for events and rallies and paying attention to things. Keep in mind that was around the time of George W. Bush. Early 2000s. So back then we really thought he was something, a real bad guy. I think a lot of us would probably trade him now.
That's for sure. He's looking pretty good right now.
That's right. But yeah, so I just got really involved, and they invited me stuff, and I really made myself a promise early on that I would never turn down an opportunity to help people in any capacity, So worked my way up. When that same union rep fell ill and had to take an early retirement, I was hired to take his spot. We grew the union pretty largely. Also opened up a couple of new training centers in Kentucky, one in Bowling Green and one in Louisville, where they hadn't previously had one. Then I, around 2020, I think, was elected as president of the Kentucky State Building Trades Council, which represents all 14 building trades unions. Still kept my job, because that's also an unpaid position. Still kept my job with the Bricklayers Union. And then when Bill Lonergan retired, he kind of tapped me in and said, hey man, what do you think about trying to make a run for this? And yes, in late 2023, I was elected by 131,000 union members in Kentucky to lead this organization, and it's been a blast.
That had to be a real proud and probably a little bit of a scary moment for you when 131,000 say you're our guy to lead us.
Yeah, I mean, It is an honor when you know that the Teamsters, the steel workers, the construction trades, everybody from the baristas to everybody, when you already have a lot of pride in the Kentucky labor movement, and all those unions that I just spoke of, when they kind of tapped you to say, yeah, here, take the wheel. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
I was kind of curious when you were kind of talking about your path, and I read your biography online. Was was your like getting involved and kind of taking the big picture view and leadership something like throughout your life you were kind of one that people kind of tended to fall behind, and you said, well, somebody's got to do this and lead? Or was there something specifically about worker advocacy and what the union does that really inspired you?
Probably a lot of both, or a lot of all that.
Mm-hmm.
More on the side of the worker advocacy that stood out. There's always a couple defining moments, you know. One that I can think of is before I was in any kind of union leadership and I was just working. We were building a power plant in Gent, Kentucky, and we were, of course, on a union crew, but the entire job site itself was a mix of union and non-union. And, you know, in no way am I blaming non-union. Accidents happen, but a iron worker fell 60 feet to his death, just a couple hundred feet from where we were working, witnessed that. And the way that not the company that we were working for, but the contractor that that gentleman was working for, the way that they handled that, and the way that there was so much concern with everyone returning back to work when that happened. So kind of the disregard for human life and safety, that kind of radicalized me a little bit and made me pay attention to a lot of other things. And it really made me kind of care about my brothers and sisters in the construction industry at that time, to just keep a watchful eye, because many times the company's not going to protect you. The union will, and your coworkers will.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
what I hear from you is, not only do you have a passion for it, but you said it's been a blast. So I feel like you're enjoying what you do as well. So that's half the battle right there. It's so important. And you spoke about all of the labor unions that came together that elected you to this position. So how do you feel the current state of labor is in Kentucky? I don't know if there's some of the biggest priorities you're looking at, if there's a lot of challenges that you're focused on right now. There's a little bit of a resurgence of labor in Kentucky, so that's a positive thing. I think you touched on that a little bit. But what are you guys focused on right now?
We're always focused on growth, and that growth really shows up in the form of us educating workers to let them know that they do have rights to join or form a union at their workplace, or finding opportunities for them to join unions where there are job opportunities available and apprenticeships and so on. I think the state of the union is very strong right now. We've had another slight uptick year where union membership grew again. Kentucky does have the highest union density of all the southern states, not by a little, but by a lot, or around 12% union density in private workforce, where, for example, South Carolina is less than 3%, if that
Wow.
tells you anything. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Kentucky's always been pretty strong. We have, obviously, I like to say it's kind of in our DNA with the coal mining strikes of the early
Yeah.
1900s and all that stuff, right? So whether you're union or not, Republican, Democrat, Independent, I think Kentucky workers have always kind of stood together and stood up for injustice. But I say that because what's driving some of this growth is the obvious. Affordability is the term that gets thrown out a lot, right?
Heard,
People
we've heard it
also,
a couple of times. Yeah, we've heard it a couple of times here recently.
yeah. I mean, so people are looking for a good wage and dignity in retirement and health care. Another thing is kind of what I mentioned before, but a voice in the workplace is really important to people, sometimes more often than money. So we see a lot of professional nurses at hospitals, which a lot of people don't know this, but there's around 300 union nurses in the state of
Oh, yeah.
Kentucky. They make pretty good money. They make good benefits. They have health care, but they really want a voice in the workplace as far as how many patients they have to care for at a time, their breaks, their shifts, stuff like that, right? So working conditions are important. And to your question on challenges, I think the biggest challenge right now is when Trump took his first day into his second term, he basically dismantled the National Labor Relations Board, also known as the
Right.
NLRB. So people are definitely organizing unions. They're joining unions, and they're getting their majority votes together to have those unions. However, with the dysfunctional NLRB, they're not getting those unions.
Yeah, and when you talked about the nursing unions, just pointing out that not only is that benefiting the nurses, as you said, pay and being able to take breaks, but that benefits the patients as well. I mean, we're talking about patient safety as well here, and that's goes for all. I think for all of the unions. Not only are you helping the actual worker, but those who are benefactors of the work that's being done.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the healthcare, you were talking about the hours and shifts. I mean, it seems to me, and there's probably other industries, but it seems like that's one where workers could be abused and taken advantage of more than ever. You hear the horror stories of the long shifts and just the conditions and the patient loads, especially, I mean, obviously during the pandemic, but any kind of a medical emergency. And then the state of healthcare right now, they're just not getting the support or even the respect that they deserve for the job they do.
That's right. Listen, I think a lot of people have a misconception that union jobs are strictly what you might even call a blue collar job if you're sweating in a factory or swinging a hammer or putting a shovel in the ground. But we have seen a huge growth in industries like massage therapy, retail, grocery stores,
Does I was curious, we're talking about growth and the 10.5 billion in new development and new business that was brought in by Governor Beshear in 2025. And I'm looking through what some of those industries are and some of those projects. And I'm assuming or hoping that a lot of those mean union jobs. Is that correct or
That is
accurate?
correct.
Or
The construction unions are doing an amazing job at handling that amount of work. They're out there organizing. They're going to non-union job sites and recruiting people and saying, "Hey, we feel like if you're doing this kind of work, that a person a mile down the road, the exact same thing they're doing for this much more plus benefits, and there are jobs available right now. Why wouldn't you come over and join the union?" It's a no-brainer. And as far as we've yet to see a lot of these places start up and become operational, and then unions organize a new union within that place, because I'd mentioned before with the NLRB, we've seen what can happen there. But I can actually say that unions are actively organizing a lot of these new facilities.
can you maybe discuss? I mean, I know that's a huge topic probably, but the NLRB specifically, how that most directly affected or negatively impact like your role or right down to your membership. Like I know there are strategic, initiatives that are involved in it, I'm assuming, but is there day-to-day stuff that was immediately affected you guys and, negatively impacted your workers?
It's not so much day to day. However, it's really easy to get a little disheartened, to lose a little bit of the wind in your sails when you know that workers out there are told one thing, they learn one thing, and they think, "Oh, we do have the freedom to come together, and this is America, and we can come together collectively for a better life for my family and for my coworkers." And then just to hit that dead end right now, and a lot of people don't fully understand that it's not the union's fault, that it's actually the federal government that's done this. And then people get a little bit of a bad image, or maybe think the union failed them. We deal with that a little bit. That's unfortunate.
And when you talk about the dismantling, as you said, what President Trump did, and we look back at what Biden was very pro-union. And I feel like, I think we all kind of saw the writing on the wall, and Trump was very vocal about what he was going to do with unions. But I also see that there's been this resurgence with unions and labor within the Democratic Party as to some of the reasons that you stated before. But we had Democrat Derek Clemens won in Kentucky. He's the president of the United Steelworkers Local 1693. And then we have a fourth generation union worker on our ballot right here in Northern Kentucky running for state rep in District 64. So I don't know if you could talk a little bit about how can we strengthen the relationship between the party and the unions? And if you see a resurgence, kind of swing it back towards the Dems, or if you have any input on that at all.
I have a lot of input on that. We're really excited. Yeah, we're really excited about what's happening right now. I mean, not everybody's going to win. I want to put that out there, but this primary, we had I believe it was 42 union members run for some kind of public office
Wow.
from state senator to state rep on down to magistrates, the dog catcher. You know what I mean? But it's people.
Dog catcher's important. We can get him
That's
in.
right.
We get him in office. I don't care what the
That's right.
position is.
Yeah, right.
You know, every job is important. But
Yeah.
look, like people, I think this is what excites me. People are waking up. You've got the working class, and then you've got basically the Epstein class at this point. We have a government that covers up for these people, gives them bailouts and everything, and then they're trying to convince working class people that the other working class person is their enemy. And I really do think people are starting to open their eyes to this and come together. The Democrat Party has always been unwavering on their support of organized labor. They've always been open door with me personally. And as a lobbyist that works in Frankfurt, I can tell you that it is 100% open door, 100% you bring ideas to them. It is definitely the party of the working class here in Kentucky. And that's not to say there aren't some good Republicans that help us too. There certainly are. We couldn't get done what we do without them. But the two party platforms, when comparing organized labor issues or even working class issues, there's quite a difference.
Well, that's great to hear. And just the gap between the haves and the trying to gets, as I would call them, not the have-nots, but the billionaire class, the Epstein class, and the rest of us is widening. And, I just think, as you said, people are waking up because I think they're focusing on the corruption, and we're spreading the word more and more on the corruption. It's right there in front of our face. We just saw Don Jr. and Eric now with Kazakhstan and their mining, and it's some multi-million billion-dollar deal, and it's right out there in front of us. And it's I think your average American is looking at that and say, it's enough. And I think these midterms is where they're going to let their voices be heard, and then we're going to start turning the corner.
Yeah, I think so. It's also really interesting to see what DSA's been doing lately. They've had some success, not only in elections, but in their organizing and mobilizing. I've met some really fine people from DSA from Louisville and Lexington as I travel state talking to workers. I really appreciate their alignment with working class issues also.
Yeah. Right. I think I had read a couple articles about some people are freaking out because Democratic Socialists are like, oh my gosh, socialism, because they don't really understand what the DSA stands for. Mm-hmm. And I just want to throw a note out real quick that Heather Cox Richardson, who everybody knows that I follow and really admire, she has a great tutorial on all the different terminology, socialism, communism. So to your point, that it's very strong there. It's a rising movement, a progressive movement. And I think everybody should take a step back and try to really learn what they stand for before they, kind of prejudge, because they really are the party and people who are fighting for the working class.
Yeah, and you said earlier that the Dems in Frankfurt, of course we have Governor Beshear. They're open door with you. They come in, give us your ideas, let us know how we can help. So obviously the AFL-CIO plays a critical role in shaping some of the public policies that are out there. Are there any, I know we just finished the legislative session, but are there any key legislative priorities that you guys are focused on right now that you're going down to Frankfurt and saying, let's talk about this?
Sure. Governor Beshear, as he unfortunately comes towards the end of his last term, has met with me on a couple occasions recently, and we've provided him with some examples and had some discussions of things like executive orders and regulations that he can legally do to help working class people. He's already executed some of those. He's raised some pay for some state workers, some other issues that have gotten lined out, and I know he's working on some more. I think timing's really important for that, but we look forward to seeing him roll those out. And if the supermajority in Frankfurt decides to claw those back, we're going to shine a big light on it and try to show people exactly what's happening. So I do applaud the Beshear administration for his open door, open phone. We communicate easily and regularly. As far as the House and Senate caucuses, great group of people that, they're small but mighty, and they stand firm on their beliefs for working class people. They're a pleasure to work with. As far as policy, we made a lot of noise early this year when session first started. When Gary Clemens was elected to the Senate, we knew he was going to come in basically fearless. And the first bill that he filed was the repeal of right to work. And that was Senate
Yes.
Bill, I believe it was Senate Bill 163. Made a lot of noise, so much that Republican leadership called me in for a meeting to find out more about it. That's not necessarily a win, but to get those conversations going is progress, and we appreciate Gary doing that. And then also union member and state representative Adriel Camuel from the Lexington area, she filed a companion bill in the House. Aside
Yeah,
from
it's
that, we're
a
focused.
start.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Aside
seat
from
at the
that,
table. It's a seat at the table. And like you
yeah.
said, you had so many people stand up to run. Like I said, we have William Whalen here in District 64.
Mhm.
He's fantastic. I know he's done some work in Frankfurt as well. And I was so excited when that seat was won for Clemens. So it was so exciting. I was so
No,
happy to see that.
we had Robert Bell, a union member, win his primary in Louisville. We had Mitra Subedi win the primary in House District 30, also a union member. April Whitaker for, I think it's city commissioner in the Lexington area. She is a LIUNA member, the Laborers Union International. Lots of good victory stories there. And I'm pretty proud to say that the ones that lost their primary jumped in and started helping the person who beat them.
It's great.
Yes,
That's
that's great.
that's the way it should be.
I mean,
Yeah.
those union victories, they're going to bring their values and, fairness and equity and really an understanding of what it takes to lead to have a dignified life, to everything they do. I think it's going to benefit people across the board.
Yeah. It's given me some, some wind in the sails too. I mean, at this point, I'm thinking I might run for something. You never
Heck
know.
yeah.
Do
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, as we said earlier, union membership is on the rise. 60% of voters in a recent poll favor making it easier to join a union. So it sounds like, with everything that's going on, we discussed, the future of organized labor looks pretty good. And what appeals do you make out to younger workers? Is there, are there special programs, or is there any message out to the younger people who are starting to look at, hey, what do I want to do? What path do I want to choose, that they may not be considering this, and it might be learn more about the union, how it could benefit them?
Actually, the younger workers are where it's at. I'm telling you.
Is it?
Yeah, it is, because not only, I mean, they're the most tuned in. They see what's happening nationally
That's
right
great.
now. They also can compare their grandparents and their parents and their buying power, and the fact that, I mean, this is no secret. Young people are complaining they're having a hard time buying a house, the interest rates, the down payment, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they're stuck in rent traps and payment trap, and just about 100% of their income goes as outcome out the door, right? Just to
Right.
live, right? So you're basically just living to work, working to
Yeah.
live. It's a
Yeah.
horrible cycle. They see that, and they're good. Their young people are really good at using this little thing that we call a smartphone right here, keeping them connected. They're really good at organizing. They're really good at speaking up. I applaud their bravery. I just want them to stick with it and keep trying. And when we have a better federal administration that allows our freedoms to function again, I think union membership is going to probably explode.
Sounds great.
That's great. And what about for people like me, who I'm not part of a union? What advice can you give to someone who we want to get involved? How can we support labor advocacy, labor organizing? We're trying to give voices on platforms like this, like our podcast. And are there other ways that non-union workers can get involved?
Many ways. So again, as I've been traveling the state, talking to workers, both union and non-union, and when I say this, I mean literally, if I pull over in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky, and get gas, I just strike up a conversation with the person at the pump, with the person working inside, whatever, right? The person delivering the bread, the soda drinks, everything. So you just talk to people, see what's going on. And it's a common theme. So we created, a lot of people would say to me, well, I wouldn't even know how to join a union. So we created a tab on our website, how to join or form a union. It's got some simple questions like what part of state you're from, what industry you're in, are you having any issues on your job site? And then that connects you. It'll have a union representative organizer from that industry to reach out to you and to find out more about how they can help you. We've seen some success in that. If you're looking to just help, just to be an ally, you can obviously sign up for our newsletter, which is going to let you know what we've been up to and what we have coming up. You can also, we have the AFL-CIO, but we're an umbrella over all the unions, and also what's called a CLC, which is a Central Labor Council. And I know where you guys are from, they have a very strong, the Northern Kentucky Central Labor Council. Surely you guys know Tim and Jim and all those people.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we got Tim on. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what you want to do, is connect with your Central Labor Council for a kind of a more localized effort. I think that stuff's really important. Aside from that, we have people that come up to me that have never been in a union, but because maybe their dad was or their grandfather was, they'll always buy a Ford truck. They'll always buy, they'll always buy, the union made candy bar instead of the non-union candy bar. Simple as that, they'd never shop at Walmart. Instead, they'll shop at Kroger.
And even our printing, all of our printing we do is union print. It's got to have the union seal on it.
Right.
So all those little things,
Yeah.
Well, Dustin, it was great having you on. Before we go, is there anything you wanted to add that we maybe missed? It was very heartening listening to you, and it sounds like it's very exciting. There's lots of opportunity and it sounds like some positive changes coming up for all of us.
The website, we need your website too before you go.
Oh, yeah. So it's just Kentucky State AFL-CIO. And, we're actually, our social medias have taken off. I hired a communications director. It's been about maybe a year and a half now, year and a quarter. And our social medias did exactly what we hoped to reach a larger audience. I think within the first year, we had already had something like 1.5 million touches from people. Yeah.
It's great.
So definitely look us up on social media. You'll get a little entertainment, especially if you do TikTok and everything. We do throw some stuff in. We also make it educational and make sure that you can connect with people if you want to.
Well, we have a YouTube channel for this podcast, and when we had Tim Donnie on, it was one of our most engaged podcasts. So people were out there looking for this content and looking for information on labor unions. So Yeah,
we've been inspired by you all and by others. So we actually have our first podcast episode coming up soon. We've just invested in all the equipment. We built a podcast room at the office. It's going to be called Clocked In.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's kind of a play because it play back to the young people. Young people use that term. If you're clocked in, it means you're paying attention, right?
Right.
And obviously also if you're clocked in, you're on the job. So we're really excited about it, and I don't know exactly when the first episode is going to drop, but it won't be long.
Let us know. We'll be sure to share that and promote that, because I know our listeners would definitely want to be interested in that as well. So
thank you.
Yeah, and I just really appreciate what you said about the young people out there and how engaged they are and how they're really, driving some of this change with that engagement, because, I've got 3 kids in their 30s, and they're all very involved. And when I hear people my age or anyone really just saying, oh, they don't care, they're just off doom scrolling or whatever, it really aggravates me, because I find the exact opposite. And you've just reinforced that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Dustin. We wish you best of luck, and stay in touch, and maybe we can have you back on when we get past these midterms, and we might have some exciting news to share, and, we can kind of see where we're going to progress to next.
I'll be there. Good to see everyone. Hope to see you all soon.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Appreciate it. And thanks to all of our listeners for tuning into the Blue Dot Podcast. If you've enjoyed this conversation, be sure to share it with someone and keep the dialogue going. And don't forget, you can join the conversation at our Facebook and Instagram pages, or at bluedotpodcast.com. If you like listening to the podcast, consider donating to help fund it, which you can also do by clicking the donate link at bluedotpodcast.com. Until next time, stay curious, keep the facts in focus, and never, ever stop fighting for what matters. Peace out, everybody.